Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fahzaly Advice. I truly do appreciate all of you that have been watching, and I truly do hope that there has been some value in what I have said, that I've been able to help somebody, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is to be able to help somebody. And I truly do appreciate not only the courage of those that have submitted to Fahzaly Advice, but also I want to say thank you for trusting me with your quandary. And I do hope that that trust was placed well within me, and that, like I said, I was able to help in some way. Now, let's get on into our first submission for today, which is brought to us by Feeling Used. And they write, "Hey Faja, so about 8 months ago, I left college for reasons I do not wish to discuss. But I had two really good friends there who I have known for about 5 years. The whole time I was at this college, we were best mates and always hung around each other. But the second I left college, they stopped talking to me, calling me, and every time I wanted to hang around them, they said that they were busy, even if they weren't. Now I'm feeling that they were only using me for certain things. I don't know if I should stay friends with them or not. What should I do, Faja? Sincerely, Feeling Used." Alrighty then, let's get on into this, shall we? Firstly, I want to say thank you to the submitter. I truly do appreciate you coming forth and trusting me with this particular quandary. Now, we've talked about friendship in this podcast many times. And when it comes down to it, friendship is important because it's a connection that you make with somebody, and in the hopes that they will be a partner in a way in your life, to share in some things and to help enjoy, and in turn to do the same for them. Friendship has many different definitions. It truly does. But ultimately, what needs to be considered is yourself. That you need to respect yourself enough to be able to see whether or not these relationships are worthwhile, or they're complementary, or they're detrimentary, they're a detriment. Because there are many faces a relationship can take, especially friendships. And not all of those faces are kind. Not all of those faces have light. So that is something to be considered for sure. But ultimately, we cannot judge one situation by another. As I've stated time and time again in this podcast, and even in my live streams, context and nuance. Because you cannot judge one situation by the other. For every conflict that you may face will have its own unique challenges and its own unique causes. And if you simply are looking for ways to compare, even though you might be trying to find a solution, more often than not, comparing the situation and not being able to see it as what it should be, as a new encounter or a new conflict, can blind you to what solutions there may be. Now, I digress. When it comes to friendships in general, as I stated, one thing to fully consider is yourself. because you are important. Being in a friendship is not a one-way street. It's a two-way bike path. Sorry. It's not a one-way bike path. It's a two-way street. Just like any relationship. But it's not about viewing it in a way of transactional features. Your kindness, your time, your mind, these aren't tokens to be traded and to be looked at between favor and non-favor. So consider that as we go forward in this conversation. Now, these are two friends that you have known for 5 years. And I'm guessing that y'all went to college together. I'm assuming this because there wasn't that information. I wasn't privy to that particular bit of information. But I'm gonna guess that they went to the same college as you did, and that y'all did classes and the like together. Now, I'm not gonna ask you about the circumstances in which led to you leaving your particular facility of education. But if they are still currently there, that is something that you also need to consider. Because maybe, just maybe, the multitude of times that y'all have had to hang out and be with each other, you had the opportunity to do so because y'all were in the same learning facility. Now, if that's not the case, and this just simply changed and you leaving your learning facility at this particular instance was nothing more than mere coincidence, and they were not exactly involved with that particular instance, then that changes how we view the situation altogether, of course. But there's a lot of factors that do need to be considered that aren't necessarily here. So I do apologize if my answer might not be satisfactory, but I am trying to do my best with the information that I have. So hopefully I am able to help you in some way. Now, if this was an instance that occurred because they were at the same learning facility and you left, you have to consider the fact that their time and opportunities to be able to hang out differ very greatly from yours because you are not currently participating in what they are participating in. And if that's not the case, and if this sudden change occurred simply coincidentally after you left college, then either way, this still leads into ultimately what needs to happen here, which is a conversation. Whether or not you stay friends with them should be determined based off of this conversation, which shouldn't necessarily be a confrontation. Simply because you're friends. At the very least, at this moment, you are still friends, hopefully. Simply bring it up in the instance of, this is how you feel. You feel like things have changed. You feel like y'all don't hang out as much as you used to, and it feels like they don't have time for you. And it almost feels like they're leaving you behind, if that is what you are feeling. But when it comes to friendships, relationships in general, communication is key, because communication also gives the other party the opportunity to speak up. Now, whether or not their answer is truth or lie, whether or not their answer is what you wanted to hear or disappoints you, it is something that you need to be able to gauge your next decision, at the very least as informed as you can be. Because if these friendships are important enough, then you shouldn't make decisions on a whim. You should get the most amount of information that you can before you move forward. So have that conversation if you haven't already. Tell them how you feel. Tell them that you feel lonely and that you feel a little bit left out now, and that things feel like they have changed. And then ask them why. Try to figure out what may be the root cause to why things have changed. And bringing this conversation to light may bring many other things to light. Maybe they are ignorant to this. Maybe they didn't notice this because they're so busy trying to do other things. And sadly, they forgot, or they were too focused. But having the conversation brings it to light, and once again gives them the opportunity to be able to speak, which will give you the information you need to move forward. Because if what they say is a lie, then that tells you everything that you need to know right there. But they were never your friends. If they were willing to lie to your face when you tell them how you genuinely feel, then what's the point of being friends? Now, if the case could be something else, that something's changed, maybe they believe that you've changed, maybe they're worried and they don't have the means to be able to voice it properly. Bringing this conversation up gives them the opportunity to be able to voice maybe something that you may not know. And as daunting as conversations like this can be in friendships or relationships of any kind, familial or romantic, either way, these conversations are meant to be easy. But it's also a matter of worth in these friendships, and how much they mean to you and how much you mean to them. Because also, it would say a lot if they weren't willing to have the conversation at all. That in itself speaks volumes to how they view you and value you. So that is summarily my advice to you, my friend, feeling used, is talk to them. Because at the very least, you should be able to talk to your friends. If you can't, then they were never really your friends to begin with. And you deserve better than that. You deserve friends that you can be open with, to be able to communicate with. Just like any important relationship. It's a matter of, you would want them to be able to come to you if there was an issue, right? They should be able to, at the very least, extend the same courtesy. And it's not asking too much. It isn't. So consider what I said here. And if you haven't had that conversation, have it. And if you already have, gauge it by potentially what I said. But ultimately, the decision needs to be made by you. Because this is your life. These are your friends. And this is your time, your heart, and your mind. They are gifts. They are not tokens to be traded. And you are not someone that is only worth what you can provide. Alright? Now, I appreciate that you sent in this submission, and I truly do hope you found value in what I said, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Now, before we move on to the second submission, we're going to pause a little bit and lead into a little something more.
Well, hey everybody! Did you know that Agent Fahzaly Gamer has a Patreon?
That's right, and Random Skull is here to help tell you about it.
And that's right, we're doing this announcement together.
And when you subscribe to Patreon, you get to see content early and, of course, make requests for content on YouTube and even on Twitch and TikTok. It's all up to you.
And of course, if you want to support Agent Fasha Gamer, check out these links. And of course, there are also links in the link tree.
And remember, when you subscribe to Patreon, you can also leave a message saying that Random Skull is better than Mr. Announcer.
Now, was that even really necessary? Well, hey there, everybody. Mr. Announcer and
Random Skull?
And we're here to let you know that Agent Fasha Gamer also streams live on Twitch 5 days a week, and sometimes on YouTube.
And if you want to continue to support Agent Fasha Gamer, check out the links for his Twitch and his YouTube, all in the link tree.
That's right. Check out those links.
Alrighty then, everybody. Let's get on into that second submission, shall we? And this one comes to us from Worried Motherhen. And they write, Dear Fasha, I'm a middle-aged woman, and I've been happily married to my wife for many years. Recently, due to the current state of our, former great country, my 22-year-old son was laid off and has been unable to find new employment. This has led to him losing his apartment, and currently, he is living with me. He is a good man. He always helps out around the house and is using his unemployment to pay rent. But even so, it has been almost 6 months now since he moved in, and it feels like he's so lost right now. I see him applying for jobs every day, but these have resulted at most in a phone interview and nothing more. Lately, I see him in the evenings playing games with a blank look on his face, unlike when he used to play with enthusiasm. He hasn't given up on looking for work because I still see him attempting to apply everywhere he possibly can. But I can see it's wearing my son down seeing no results. My wife has also noticed this and brought it up to me recently that she's very worried. She had a conversation with him, and he said he felt like all he did to get through school didn't mean anything. I don't know what to do right now. I feel like I'm failing him as a mother, but I don't know how I can help him right now. Signed, Worried Motherhen. Now, Worried Motherhen, I totally understand why you feel this way. It's not easy seeing the people that you love in a place that you don't know how to help them, but you want to. That's why you don't fail as a mother, because you care and you want to do something. And there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't. Now, this is somewhat of a touchy situation. And I will state this for anybody who wants to come into the comments and make some smart-ass response like, oh, he just didn't try hard enough to get a job. I have a job. It's a very easy thing to say when you do have a job. But when you're on the downhill slide of the never-ending cascade of shit of life, it's hard to see the light. It's easy to judge when you're in a place to judge from. But the hardest thing to do is to see yourself in their shoes, because that's what you're afraid of. At the very least, those that are willing to judge. Everybody's situation isn't the same. Circumstances and factors all have something to come into play when it comes down to something even as benign as employment. But employment isn't necessarily benign in itself because it's necessary for life in a lot of ways. And I'm gonna guess that, worried Motherhen, your son really did like their job. More than likely, from what it sounds like, they were in a position, or they were in the field of what they wanted to do. And losing that, being cut off from it suddenly, at no fault of your own, is a jarring moment in anybody's life. I should know. That happened to me. Now, I will take a moment to share this story that happened to me. The last job that I had in the food industry, and I've been in the food industry I was in the food industry for 15 years. But the last job that I had, I thought was my dream job. I created menus. I built systems. I was in charge of a kitchen, hiring. And as soon as I built everything, as soon as it was all set, it was taken from me. With a simple, "Thank you for your work. Here's your last paycheck." Because they thought that they could take over the kitchen after it was all set up by somebody who knew what they were doing. And that was the last straw for me. But that also led me into a place of unemployment. And I went to a dark place. I did. But I had people around me who loved me, who told me that I wasn't worthless, who reminded me that I had things that I wanted to do that weren't just within the food industry, and that I was more than just one singular aspect. Because there's more that I gained from the food industry than just how to cook, and I can apply that in more ways than one. The same goes for your son. He may have lost his way, and he is lost. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you have to get lost to be found. But this is his journey to take. As painful as this might be, as someone who loves him, you're gonna have to let him take this journey on his own. You can help him as much as you want. You can try. You can support him. You can be there for him. But the truth is, none of that's going to matter. None of that's going to matter until he wants to. But I'm not saying don't try. I'm not saying don't be there for him. I'm saying do all that in the hopes that he, for himself, will realize what he needs to do. Just because he got laid off doesn't mean his education didn't mean anything. He learned something from all of that time at school. He can apply it to so many more things. He just needs to be willing to open his eyes. There are so many instances where we can just use them as excuses to give up and wallow in our own pity. Or, as my grandpa loved to say, you can waste time bitching, or you can get up and get busy fixing. Life isn't going to happen for you. And it doesn't happen to you. Life happens. You gotta roll with the punches, get up, and keep fighting. Because it's not about how hard you can hit. It's not about how well you can hit. It's not about how skilled you are. It's about how willing you are to stand back up despite it all. And I hope that your son listens to this, because he needs to realize that. But it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what anybody says until he believes it himself, until he realizes it himself. Because the landscape is food. You need but reach out and take it. The doors are there, my friends. In the darkest of times, in the moments where it seems like there will be no end to the storm, giving up gets you nowhere. But if you weather the storm and you continue forward, at the end there will be light, there will be sun. And as long as you are willing to continue and fight, you will get to where you want to be. And if you want to help your son, be there for him. Talk to him. Ask him what's going on. Allow for there always to be the open palate to accept when he's ready to talk about it. Because you're his mother, and more than likely, you're one of the few people he feels safe talking to about when he feels like he's failing. Because that's where his head is more than likely at right now. That he's failing. That he believes that he has to be at some level of expectation and he hasn't reached it yet. But that's okay. Because he's still alive. And he is young. He's got a lot of life ahead of him. A lot of twists, a lot of turns, and a lot of failures to face. But none of those are reasons to give up. They're reasons to continue. And it is a lesson that is learned in some of the toughest of ways. And it sucks because you have to face it. You have to face that sadness, that disappointment. And you have to accept it. Because getting angry, being sad, that's fine. But it won't change anything until you take action to make it change. So you must ask your son, what do they want? What does he want? And keep asking him that. Not in an accusatory way, of course, but ask him so that it opens the door and the opportunity for him to be able to at least think about it. Because right now, like you said, he's lost. To find his way, he needs to get moving. And I'm not saying that what he's doing isn't moving forward. He's trying to find a job. All right. And if that's not working out, maybe try to look at his education. Try to look at his education in a different way. And maybe that might give him the avenue to try something new. And you never know where that's going to go, right? Because Murphy's Law is always at play. And tomorrow's a brand new day. And you never know what it's going to bring. Gotta keep going. Now, worried mother hen, thank you. Thank you so much for your submission, for trusting me, and I do hope that what I said helps you help him. Because I can tell. I can tell, even though he's lost, from the small little bits and pieces here, he's trying. He's trying to find his way. He will. Trust that he will. And just be there for him, as a mother should. Alright, everybody. I hope you found value in today's episode of Fahzaly Advice. I truly do appreciate all of you, but it's time to get going. It's time for the love train to get rolling on through. Choo-choo. I love every single freaking one of you. Well, everybody, that's the end of Fahzaly Advice. I hope you did enjoy this episode and you found some value in what I said. And of course, if you are interested in participating, if you need some advice or some perspective, feel free to email the address at the end of this part. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Need some perspective? Need some advice? Want your submission read on podcast? Well, email Fahza at fahzalyadvice@gmail.com. And remember, all submissions are 100% anonymous unless requested upon.